dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Hello, welcome to Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio American Network. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. On today's special edition, we are talking what has been happening in Gaza, what's going on with the peace accords, and will they last? We'll also be taking a look at the history of peace accords in the region. Please remember, Liberty Nation Radio is sponsored by LibertyNation.com, where you can access podcasts, breaking news, analysis, and a range of biting and brilliant shows to whet your appetite for freedom and your fondness for the great American Constitution. Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio American Network. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. On today's special Peace in Israel edition, we are joined by Liberty Nation's senior political analyst and longtime host of this here radio show, Mr. Tim Donner, and Liberty Nation's national security correspondent, fount of all things war and mayhem, Mr. Dave Patterson. Thanks for being here, chat.
Thank you, Mark. Great to be with you.
So the big story of the week is clearly there appears to have been an outbreak of peace in the Middle East, but specifically in the Gaza region. And I should just point out to our audience that at time of recording, the ceasefire is holding. That may change, but we're going to try and take a broader perspective on what's been happening. And let's start first, guys, with really when Trump was speaking at this big press conference and he had the world leaders gathered around him explaining what the situation was, what was going forward. What did you pick up on there? Let's start with Dave on that.
Well, what I picked up on is that there this mass of humanity that stood behind him, and the fact that there were so many different equities present. I mean, you had Sharif from Pakistan, and you had the Indonesian prime minister or president, and you had this wide variety of international notaries. And oh my gosh, who would have guessed that many people and that many people of influence throughout the world could be gathered in such a short period of time to show their support for the Trump peace program.
Do you think there was anybody missing who it would have been good to have there for their own personal buy-in?
At first I thought, Netanyahu passed on it because he has this holiday coming up and his plate is pretty full.
Got to play some golf, right?
Right, but perhaps that might have been an ad that you'd like to have seen, but it wasn't didn't in any way take away from the importance of that meeting and those people behind Trump.
Absolutely. Tim, your takes on it?
Well, first of all, the reason really that Netanyahu didn't come is because there was at least one participant who said, if Netanyahu shows up, I won't. So Netanyahu said, look, they had their ceremony in Israel. It wasn't necessary for him to show up in Egypt. But I think you could make the point where the argument that the most important single person who attended this was Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority. Because if you get the buy-in, the consent of the Palestinian Authority, that pretty much all but assures that this deal is going to hold, especially since Hamas has now given up its last bit of leverage, which is the 20 remaining live hostages. Now, they haven't yet, as of this moment, they have not released all of the bodies of the deceased hostages. But I think the point is that seeing this huge international gathering, first of all, it's unbelievably impressive that Trump could get this many significant world leaders into a single spot in the space of 2 or 3 days. But everybody wanted in on this. Everybody wanted to show their support, and that shows how big a deal this is. Everybody wanted their name attached to it. And so it was an extraordinary scene, one that Dave and I have lived a few years, and I think it's safe to say neither of us has seen anything like it.
No, I would agree. I mean, it was truly special in terms of international groupthink. I was just amazed at how many people were there from the different locations around the world.
Yeah, I may be seeming a little bit skeptical here, chaps, but it seems to me that the people who were there, yes, it was a fantastic feat of organization, just in terms of logistics, to get that many people there safely, because obviously you can't announce these things too far in advance, because what if the hostages hadn't been released on Monday morning, Israel time? So this whole thing wouldn't have happened. So it was under wraps, trying to get people there. It's a massive logistical project that I mean, I'd actually love to have been a fly on the wall in the planning sessions for that. But I think there was an impetus on the people who weren't Donald Trump to get there, to be in the frame on it, because it's a good look for them, whether they were deeply involved, tangentially involved, or not involved really at all, other than saying I don't know, something like they support in the future at some unspecified time Palestinian statehood. They want to be in the picture. They want to be in the video where Trump has potentially brokered a deal for long-lasting peace in the region, and it seems a little bit self-serving to me. Or am I just a cynic? What do you think, Dave?
I think that there's another dynamic here that we need to talk about that's probably equally important, perhaps more, and that as you looked at that crowd, that's where all the money is. That's where the money is going to come from to reconstruct Gaza. And at one point, President Trump asked the media to leave because he was going to talk to these people one on many. And I think that at that point, that's where he put the screws to them, saying, this cannot go on without your help. And
yeah, it's fascinating. By the way, I love the way that you seem to think that they individually have money, and it's not just poor schlub taxpayers who will be rebuilding Gaza.
Well, there's a little bit of both, probably.
Sure.
I think that what Trump likely said as the deal maker extraordinaire is, okay, you want in on this deal, you want the photo op, you want to take the part of the credit for this, then you're going to have to pony up. And probably, I mean, Trump's style is to say that, once these promises are made, if some of them aren't kept, you can pretty much expect that he's going to call out the countries that don't participate, if there are any, publicly.
That doesn't sound like Donald Trump. Oh, yes.
He's been known to do that on more than one occasion.
Yeah, so the estimates, I think Trump's estimate is 50 to 80 billion, which, is a lot of, that's a lot of taxpayer donations, but at the same time, divided amongst the countries, it's not as much as probably each individual country is spending on aid to Gaza or for weaponry supplies to Israel, things like that. So it might actually work out to be fiscally, I hate to say, it might work out to be a good deal for them to be involved fiscally in terms of the profit and loss sheets.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yes.
On the other hand, you think 50 to 80 billion, that sounds a lot, but it's less than the United
It's a good lunch.
It's a nice lunch at a good restaurant. But the fact is that, the United States has spent more, probably twice that in Ukraine. The EU nations have spent much more than that in Ukraine. And so as a matter of comparisons, I mean, 80 billion, and I think the 80 billion is a low ball figure. It's probably three times that. But it's a start. And Trump has been very clear that money is going to come from them, not from us.
Yeah. Do you think there'll be what are they called? PPPs, public-private partnerships?
Yeah,
partnerships. An element to it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a very good way to spread the obligation and the and also the accountability for getting stuff done.
Now, I think a lot of people would be worried if that were the route that it's going to take, and it probably is the route that it's going to take, that there'd be some efforts at what we might have called in the late 90s nation building, going on there. Even though obviously a nation does need to be built there if this whole thing is to work, but that would be nation building under the banners of private corporations. What do you think that's an overblown worry, Tim?
Well, the last time I really heard the expression nation building was when George W. Bush was running for president in 2000 and said, we're not going to get involved in nation building. And then after 9/11, that's exactly what he did in Iraq. And it turned out to be a disaster.
Yeah.
But nation building is, this time you're really somewhat like Iraq, building a nation from scratch, or you're building an area, the Gaza Strip from scratch, because it's all been leveled, decimated. There's few signs of life or usable facilities anywhere in Gaza. So, I personally thought that Trump's plan to turn the Gaza Strip into this beautiful resort area with all of its access to beaches, swimming, you could build resorts there. It would be very prosperous for the region. You could provide a great deal of employment for the people of Gaza who have been through so much. I thought that was a tremendous idea, but of course it was immediately attacked because of the thought that, geez, Donald Trump might profit from it, so we can't do it. But they're starting from scratch. They're starting from ground zero, lest there be any doubt. Gaza is completely destroyed, almost as if a nuclear bomb had been dropped on it.
Yeah, it does look a lot like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Actually.
Yes.
I think a more accurate description would be Dresden.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Yes, the carpet bombing. Yes.
Yeah. And then, Germany rose to become the industrial powerhouse of the 80s and 90s. And it took a while, but now I think in terms of the technology that we have and even the financial technology that is available, you can take that 30, 40 years that it took for Germany to become a powerhouse in industry. I think you can condense that to 10 to 12 years with the financial tools we have available now.
It's also a much smaller area
absolutely.
that is to be rebuilt.
And it had an organized and structured Marshall Plan that was very focused and was successful, as was MacArthur's efforts in Japan.
Very much so. I want to talk about the Marshall Plan after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.